JavaScript is one of the most loved and the hated programming language at the same time. The confusion begins with whether JavaScript is a compiled or an interpreted language. The fun fact is, JavaScript is both compiled and interpreted. On a high level, JavaScript is just an interpreted language, meaning that the code is executed directly by an interpreter without the need for prior compilation into a machine language. However, modern JavaScript engines like Chrome's V8 uses just-in-time compilation. So yeah, best of both worlds. It doesn't stop there. Now the question is whether JavaScript is strongly typed or loosely typed. Strongly typed languages are those that have strict types like Java or C++, where you define a variable along with its data type. JavaScript doesn't have that. All you have are let, const and var. But why are there three? Why can't it be just one? The answer is that JavaScript developers like to be fancy. Let gives you a block scope, meaning that the variable is only available inside the block. Const is also a block scope variable like let, but unlike net, it cannot be reassigned. Var is quite different. It's a functional scoped variable, meaning that it is available throughout the function. Even if it is declared in a block, it is available in the function. You can reference a variable declared with var before the declaration without getting an error. However, when you try to access a variable that is declared using let or const before the declaration, you will get a reference error. Now that we are discussing variables, it's a perfect time to talk about data types in JavaScript. JavaScript mainly has 8 data types: strings, numbers, begin, boolean, undefined, null, symbol, and objects. The first 7 are primitive data types. Non-primitive data types, or more specifically objects, are a bit more complex data type. They have their own methods and properties. Some of the best examples of objects in JavaScript are functions, array, etc. Arrays are essential in JavaScript, used for almost everything. They are collections of other elements, or they are just collections of other arrays. Arrays have their own methods like push, pop, shift, unshift, and more. The most important concept in JavaScript is, of course, objects. In simple terms, an object can be described as a collection of key-value pairs where each key determines its corresponding value. The key thing to understand about objects is that dot notation, which allows you to access the data inside them. To make our code more organized, we need something, and that something in JavaScript is functions. Functions are created to perform specific tasks. In JavaScript, we can write functions in two different ways. Normal function, which look like this, and an arrow function, which looks like this. The second one is more fancier, but there isn't a big difference between them. It's mainly a bit of fanciness added by the ECMAScript specification. Functions may or may not return something. You can pass arguments to a function so that they can receive a value to perform operations. There are two types of parameters: default parameters, which allows you to set the default value for the parameters, and rest parameters, which allows you to represent an indefinite number of arguments as an array. Functions are a great way to organize your code. If you want to control the flow of your execution, you need conditional statements. Like other programming languages, JavaScript also offers several conditional statements. The if statement, which runs a block of code if a condition is only true. The do while loop, which runs a block of code while a condition is true and checks the condition after executing the block. The for loop, which runs a block of code for a specific number of times. Switch statements, which executes a block of code depending on different cases. Inside the conditional statements, you need something, and that something is called expressions and operators. Expressions in JavaScript can be simple or complex combinations of values, variables, and other operators that produce a value. We have many types of operators in JavaScript. Some of the examples are assignment operators, used to assign a value to a variable; comparison operator, used to compare two values and return a logical value based on whether the comparison is true or false; arithmetic operators, used to perform basic mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. These are some straightforward operations. You do something and you get something. But sometimes this isn't enough. Many functions provided by the browsers, especially the most interesting ones, can potentially take a long time and therefore are asynchronous. For example, fetching a data using the fetch method takes time, right? This, my friend, is called asynchronous programming. We need this because sometimes processes takes time and block other code from running in parallel. The main reason for this is that JavaScript is a single-threaded language, which means that JavaScript only runs in one thread. It can do only one thing at a time. If it is waiting for a long-running synchronous call to return, it can't do anything else. We need something to execute the operation in a way that it does not block the main thread and let us know when it is complete. This is called asynchronous programming. The best example of this is event handlers. Event handling is an asynchronous operation. You provide a function that will be called but not right away, but whenever the event occurs. To make your function asynchronous, you can use the async keyword in front of your function and await the operation operations that can take time. When you prefix a function with async, it means that the function will always return a promise. If the function returns a value, the promise will be resolved with that value. If the function throws an error, the promise will be rejected with that error. The await keyword is normally used inside an async functions, but today you can also use the await keyword in the top level. It pauses the execution of the function until the promise is resolved and then resumes the execution, returning the resolved value. If the promise is rejected, it throws an error that can be caught by the try catch statement. JavaScript is able to handle this asynchronous operation because of the concept called event loop. There are mainly four main components in event loop: the call stack, the web API, the callback queue, and the event loop. The call stack is where the code gets executed one function at a time. Web APIs are the place where it handles operations that takes a significant amount of time to complete. Callback queue. When an asynchronous operation completes, its callback function is pushed to the callback queue. Event loop continuously checks if the call stack is empty or not. Now, this will help you to get started. If you get any kind of errors while writing some JavaScript, read the error. 99.9% of the time, reading the error can solve almost all the issues. Most of us are ignorant against reading these errors. That's why I already started to cook a video about debugging your errors. Subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss that video. Bye bye.